Imagine this: bankers on Wall Street are clinking their whiskey glasses, their portfolios nearly doubling thanks to yet another round of tax cuts. Just down the street, in an electronics store, a family eyeing their next purchase notices that everything they're considering is $30 more expensive than last month. At first glance, these two scenes seem unrelated, but they're deeply connected. While politicians boast about big and beautiful tax cuts for the rich, the quiet calculations in Washington have already decided who picks up the tab. And as always, the answer isn't the billionaires, it's you, me, and all of us. Tariffs. They sound like a punishment on foreign countries, right? A slap on China, India, Europe. A patriotic stance, America first. You think foreigners are footing the bill. But history never lies. Tariffs have always been an attack on people at home. Here's how the system works. The US government imposes, say, a 25% tariff on a product. The importing company pays that extra cost up front at the port. But businesses don't just absorb new costs, they pass them on, either by raising shelf prices or cutting corners like reducing package sizes. That's why the tariff doesn't stay on customs paperwork, it ends up on your Walmart receipt. It's invisible, but it's real. In the 19th century, before income taxes existed, the US government ran almost entirely on tariffs. They didn't take much from the rich. The budget was filled with duties on imported goods like fabric, tools, and tea. And who paid those tariffs? Not the merchants in London or Paris. Of course, it was American farmers, workers, and ordinary families. The real trick was this: it looks like a penalty on the outside, but it functions as a tax on the inside. Today, that trick has been dusted off and repackaged as populism. In 2025, tariffs brought in over $100 billion to the Treasury in just the first 9 months alone, nearly 5% of total federal revenue. Just a few years ago, that rate barely exceeded 2%. At first, it sounds like a win, money flowing in without raising income taxes. But what Washington doesn't tell us is this: that money didn't come from Beijing or Mexico City. It came from you, through higher prices on PlayStations, furniture, leather goods, even the smallest international packages. Receipts don't lie. Sony raised PlayStation prices in the US by $50. A simple couch got more expensive due to a national security investigation. Indian leather exporters are scrambling to pass off their products as European just to survive. Every shelf at Walmart reflects this new hidden tax. The Treasury wins, Wall Street keeps its tax breaks, and ordinary people cover the difference. But tariffs are only half the story. The other half is Trump's repeated glittering promise: the big, beautiful tax cut. In 2017, he signed the first major tax law, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, or TCJA. The pitch was irresistible: lower taxes, more jobs, more money in your pocket. But behind the slogans, the math was clear. Corporate tax rates dropped from 35% to 21%, and the wealthiest families pocketed billions. For ordinary Americans, temporary small credits, minor rate cuts. And here's the catch: those modest middle-class benefits were designed to expire, while corporate cuts were permanent. The result? The federal deficit ballooned by over $1 trillion. A deficit is just spending more than you collect. If you cut revenue without cutting spending, you dig a hole. You can cover it up for a while, but eventually someone has to fill it. Fast forward to 2025. Another big tax cut, even more generous for corporations and high-income individuals. More relief at the top, a bigger budget hole. But politicians can't go to voters and say, "We gave billionaires a raise, now you cover it." That doesn't sell. So they need a cover. Enter tariffs. Tariffs become the magician's trick. Money flows into the Treasury without calling it a tax increase. Over $100 billion in just 9 months. Enough to claim the deficit is shrinking, even as tax revenue from the wealthy drops. It's politics' oldest sleight of hand: cut with one hand, collect with the other. On stage, it looks like prosperity. In your household budget, it feels like higher prices. To be honest, this game isn't unique to Trump. Throughout US history, leaders from both parties have cut visible taxes while quietly shifting costs elsewhere. The trick is bipartisan, the results are always the same. History offers clear examples. In England, the Corn Laws artificially kept bread prices high to protect landowners. Farmers and elites won, workers paid more every day. Just like today, corporate boards keep their tax cuts while Walmart shoppers pay the bill through tariffs disguised as patriotism. This isn't economic nationalism. It's reverse redistribution. A feast for the rich, financed by a hidden tax on everyone else. So who really pays for these tariffs? Follow the money. In the first 9 months of 2025, Over $108 billion flowed into the Treasury, nearly 5% of federal revenue. A level not seen since the 1800s, when tariffs were the government's main funding source. The uncomfortable truth: that money didn't come from Beijing, Tokyo, or Brussels. It came from American families. A tariff at the border doesn't stay at the border, it seeps through the supply chain and lands on your receipt. That's why tariffs act like a hidden sales tax, hitting ordinary people the hardest. The result? The middle class loses purchasing power. Wharton economists estimate that tariffs will cut long-run wages by 5%, shrink GDP by 6%, and drain about $22,000 from a typical family's lifetime income. History shows backlash is never far away. In 1773, Britain thought a tea tax was minor. To American colonists, it was the final straw: taxation without representation. The Boston Tea Party proved a simple tariff could spark revolution. Or take the 1930 Smoot-Hawley Tariff. Washington promised it would protect jobs. Instead, it triggered global retaliation, world trade collapsed by 2/3, and the Great Depression deepened. Tariffs didn't save workers, they crushed them. Today's story is no different. PlayStations go up $50, furniture and clothing creep higher, even the cheapest international packages come with new fees. Each increase is small enough to ignore on its own. But together, they form a quiet, regressive tax. The winners are clear: corporations and the wealthy who keep their tax cuts. The losers are everyone else paying more for less. From Wall Street boardrooms to Walmart aisles, the line of who pays runs straight through the middle class. Tariffs survive because they sell a beautiful story, make foreign goods pricier, and suddenly American-made products look cheaper. It feels like protection, like patriotism. Like the government is standing up for workers, shielding factories, defending jobs. On the surface, the logic is seductive. But in reality, consumers pay more, producers lose incentive to innovate, trading partners retaliate. Protection is temporary, costs are permanent. That's why tariffs are the perfect stage trick. They deliver a visible, emotional win now, and bury the pain in small, invisible losses later. In the 1800s, England's corn laws played this trick perfectly. Landowners got richer, claiming they were defending national agriculture. But bread prices soared, workers paid more, and the economy stagnated until repeal in 1846. The US did the same in 1930 with Smoot-Hawley. Promised to save jobs in the Depression. Instead, global retaliation, world trade slashed by 2/3, collapse deepened. The shield became a hammer. If you think this illusion only happens in the West, look south. In the 20th century, much of Latin America embraced import substitution. High tariffs walled off foreign goods to grow local industry. For a while, it worked. Factories sprang up, nationalist speeches filled the air. But consumers paid more for lower quality products. Protected companies stopped improving. Governments piled on foreign debt to prop up the system. By the 1980s and 90s, crisis after crisis: Mexico's default, Brazil's hyperinflation, Argentina's collapse. Tariffs that promised dignity left nations weaker. Quick aside, if you're curious about countries facing hyperinflation, I shared a video on that earlier on my channel. Feel free to check it out. Anyway, back to our topic. Here's the heart of the illusion: concentrated benefits, diffused costs. One saved factory makes headlines. 30 million families paying a few extra dollars a week fades into silence. Winners are visible, losers are invisible. That imbalance keeps tariffs alive far longer than their results justify. This isn't a left-right issue. Protectionist policies have been recycled for centuries. England's corn laws raised bread prices, America's Smoot-Hawley deepened the Depression, Latin America's tariff walls fueled debt and stagnation. Different parties, different eras, same outcome: short-term optics for politicians, long-term costs for households. Tariffs have always been more than balance sheet numbers, they're political dynamite. Remember 1773? The British thought the tea tax was trivial, just another duty to fill the empire's coffers. To colonists, it was the last straw. The Boston Tea Party wasn't about tea prices, it was the insult of taxation without a voice. A small tariff carried the weight of revolution. That's the danger of hidden taxes dressed as patriotism. They feel small at first: a few cents on tea, a few dollars on bread, $50 on a PlayStation. But they stack up quietly, reshaping economies, hollowing out wages, and building anger until it finds a breaking point. Today, politicians celebrate tariffs as proof of strength. Over $100 billion and counting. Look, America is winning, they say. But history whispers a different verdict. What looks like winning is usually a shell game. Billionaires keep their tax breaks, Wall Street keeps the party going, the Treasury gets its revenue. Walmart customers, families, workers pay the bill. From England's corn laws to Smoot-Hawley, from Latin America's protectionist walls to America's own tea tax. The pattern is the same. Tariffs sound like shields. In practice, they're just mirrors reflecting costs downward, one receipt at a time. Next time you hear tariffs make rivals pay, remember the math. That money doesn't come from foreign treasuries, it comes from your wallet. If this gave you a new perspective, subscribe. You can find plenty more historical financial topics on my channel. Take care.